Page 291, The Wall. It's a big wall, but it's a big pile of dirt, and I'm a big artist. I slap handfuls of mud on the warm cement. I make a handprint. I tap my nose with a muddy finger. I make a nose print. I slide my palms up and down. The mud is thick and hard to use, but I keep moving and scooping and spreading. I don't know what I'm making. I don't care. I make swoops and swirls and thick lines, figures and shapes, light and dark. I'm an artist at work. When I am done, I step back to admire my work, but it's a large canvas, and I'd like to get a better view. I go to the thick limbed tree and grab the lowest branch. I try to swing my legs. Hump. I land hard. I'm too big to climb, I suppose. I try again anyways, and this time I pull myself onto the first limb, gasping for breath. One more limb, two. I can't go any farther. Perched halfway up the tree, I see my troops still dozing contentedly. I take in the wall, splattered and splashed with mud. Not much color, but lots of movement. I like it. It feels dreamy and wild, like something Julia might have made. From my seat in the tree, I can see beyond the wall. I see giraffes and hippos. I see deer with legs like delicate twigs. I see a bear snoozing in a hollow log. I see elephants. Safe. She's far away, belly deep in tall grass with others by her side. Ruby. She's here, Stella, I whisper. Ruby's safe, just like I promised. I call to Ruby, but the wind tugs at my words, and I know she'll never hear me. Still, Ruby pauses for a second, her ears spread wide like tiny snails. Then, with lumbering grace, she moves on through the grass. Silverback. It's a cloudy evening, chilly and drizzly. Dinner is on its way, but I don't care. At night we sleep in our den, but I'm always the last to head inside. I've been inside long enough. This time of the day there isn't many visitors. There aren't many visitors. There's just a few stragglers leaning on the wall that separate us. They point, take a couple photos, and then head over to the nearby giraffes. One of the keepers is beckoning. Reluctantly, I turn to go. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something running. I pause. It's a girl with dark hair, lugging a backpack. A man follows behind, racing to catch up. Ivan! The girl yells. Ivan! It's Julia. I scramble to the edge of the wide moat that skirts the wall. Julia and George wave to me. I dash back and forth, hooting and grunting, doing a gorilla dance of happiness. Calm down, says a voice. You're behaving like a chimp. I freeze. A tiny nut-brown, big-eared head pops out of Julia's backpack. Nice place, Bob says. Bob, I say, it's really you, in the flesh. How? Where? I can't seem to find any words. George's job at the zoo doesn't start till next month, so he and Julia made an agreement. She's walking 3 extra dogs to cover my food, and get this, they're all poodles. You said you didn't want a home, I say. Yeah, Bob says, but Julia's mom likes my company, so I figure I'm doing everybody a favor. It's a win-win. Julia pushes Bob's head back inside her backpack. You're not supposed to be here, she reminds him. Ivan looks great, doesn't he, Jules? George asks. Stronger, happier, even? Julia holds up a little photo, but it's too far for me to see. It's Ruby, Ivan. She's with other elephants now because of you. I know, I wanted to tell her. I saw her with my own eyes. We stare across the expanse that separates us. After a while, George pats Julia's arm. Time to go, Jules. Julia gives a wistful smile. Bye, Ivan. Say hello to your new family. She turns to George. Thank you, Dad. For what? For, she gestures towards me. For this. They turn to leave. The lamps that light the zoo pathways blink on, blanketing the world with yellow lights. I can just make out Bob's little head sticking out of Julia's backpack. You are the one and only Ivan, he calls. I, ta- I, I nod, then turn around towards my family, my life, my home. Mighty Silverback, I whisper. So that's the end of the book. This is called Acknowledgements. It's from the author. My thanks to the talented folks at HarperCollins for their expertise and enthusiasm. A special shout out to the art director extraordinaire Amy Ryan, to the incomparable Sarah Hoy for her lovely book design, and to copy editor Renee Cafiro, the best in the biz. Most of all, I'm indebted to Anne Hope of my remarkable editor, who has the ear of a poet, the eye of an artist, and the patience of a preschool teacher, and those are just a few of her superpowers. Thank you, Anne, for everything. I couldn't have done this without you, really. To my parents, Roger and Susan, my siblings, Stu, Martha, and Lisa, my dear old but not that old friends, Lisa Leach and Susanna Holtman, I know how truly lucky I am to have you in my life. And Julia, Jake, and Michael, humans have so many words, more than we truly need. Still, there are no words that can express how much I love you all. Extras, the one and only Ivan. Author's notes, the Newbery Medal Acceptance Award, Ivan's signature, and then some discussion questions. The one and only Ivan is a work of fiction, but the inspiration for this imagined tale lies in true story. Ivan, a real gorilla, lived at Zoo Atlanta, but the way to that happy ending, he spent almost 3 decades without seeing another of his own kind. After being captured as an infant in what is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ivan's twin sister died en route to the U.S., or shortly thereafter. Ivan was raised in a home until he became unmanageable. At that point, he was added to an odd collection of animals housed at a circus-themed mall in Washington state. Ivan spent 27 years of his life alone in a cage. Over time, as an understanding of primate needs and behaviors grew, public discomfort with Ivan's lonely state grew as well, particularly after he was featured in a National Geographic special entitled The Urban Gorilla. A public outcry followed, including heartfelt letters from children. When the mall where Ivan lived went bankrupt, he was placed on permanent loan to the Zoo Atlanta, which houses the largest group of captive western lowland gorillas in the nation. Ivan became a beloved celebrity at Zoo Atlanta, where he lived contentedly with Kenyani and other gorillas. He was known for his paintings, which were often signed with his thumbprint. Ivan and Kenyani were real gorillas, and so by way was Jambo, whose story Stella tells to Ivan and Bob. But all other characters and situations in this novel are entirely the product of my imagination. When I started to write about the grim facts of Ivan's solitary existence, a new tale slowly began to take shape, at least on the page, where anything is possible. I wanted to give Ivan, even while captive behind the walls of his tiny cage, a voice of his own and a story to tell. I wanted to give him someone to protect and the chance to be the mighty silverback he was always meant to be. The Newbery Medal Acceptance Speech. Catherine Applegate delivered her Newbery Medal acceptance speech for the one and only Ivan at the annual conference of the American Library Association in Chicago on June 30th, 2013. If I had $1 for every person who came up to me this year and said, "You know, I really love the one and only Ivan, but I've always despised talking animal books," I could buy, well, maybe a used Prius anyway. I loved animal books as a child, and if the animals talked to each other or to humans, so much the better. One of the first books I remember my dad reading to me was The Story of Dr. Dolittle. When my second grade teacher read Charlotte's Web to my class, I was enchanted and heartbroken in equal measures. That so many people were allergic to animal fantasies was new to me. Interestingly, those people were always, without exception, adults. Children were willing to give me the benefit of the doubt. Where adults see problems, children see potential. First person gorilla? Sure, why not? You have to write the book that wants to be written, said Medillion Legal. And if the books will be too difficult for grown-ups, then you will write it for children. It's easy for children to embrace animal characters, I think, because they're kindred spirits, wild-hearted and possessed of powers others don't fully appreciate. Be it the hidden talons of the domesticated cat or the hidden imagination of the domesticated child. Both live in a world controlled by tall, erratically behaving humans who ascribe to an arcane and random rules. At its heart, of course, an animal fantasy is so much about humans as it is about animals, about the things we most fear and the things we most love, about the pain and sadness, but also about the redemption and hope. Stories about animals don't have to be sad, but many are, perhaps because they are too often about powerlessness. And certainly the one and only Ivan has tragic moments. It was, after all, inspired by a dark and true story. The real Ivan was shipped as a baby to a shopping mall in Tacoma, Washington, where he served as prop and punchline for 27 years. I talked to countless people who visited Ivan as children, and to a person they all remember the pain they felt, watching this lonely, magnificent animal in his desolate cage, seemingly beyond help. After The One and Only Ivan was published, a bookstore contacted me about a pending elementary school visit. One of the parents was worried about using Ivan. She hasn't read it. They never have, as librarians know better than anybody, but she gathered that it was sad and might make some of the children cry. The bookstore, to its credit, reassured her thusly, absolutely it will make them cry. And oh, by the way, that's a good thing. We live in a world where children are bullied into despair, even suicide, where armed guards in a school hallway are considered desirable, where libraries are padlocked because of budget cuts, where breakfast and backpacks for too many children are unaffordable luxuries. Children know all about sadness. We can't hide it from them. We can only teach them how to cope with it, inevitably, and to harness their imaginations to search for joy and wonder. Nothing, nothing in the world can do better than a book. In Ivan's story, both real and fictional, there is hope. During his years in the mall, the world changed, as it has a way of doing, and other understandings of needs of animals and captivities grew. Eventually, Ivan was released to Zoo Atlanta, where he lived out his days. It wasn't the perfect answer. It was still, after all, a world with walls. But Ivan was surrounded by people who loved him, and grass and trees, and most of all, other gorillas. So, no, not a perfect ending, but things aren't black and white in the world, and they shouldn't be in a children's novel either. What makes children at the end of the day better people than the rest of us is that despite everything, they're buoyant and unrepented optimists. I always thought that the best part of being a writer is getting fan letters, although I tend to feel a little guilty when I receive them. The letters are so sweet and elusive, elusive and so humbling. The truth is, writers are a sketchy bunch. We are, after all, navel gazing, whiny, full grown adults who sit around in our sweatpants all day talking to imaginary friends. I particularly treasure this fan letter, which I'll share, which I shall read to you in its entirety. Dear K.A. Applegate, it's me again, the huge fan. I wanted to know if you can send me some of your books and DVD seasons of Animorphs. If not, if it's not too much to ask. I don't want to be a bother to you. If anything, you're my best friend in the whole wide world, and I've never had any with your quality and imagination. I mean, I have a big imagination too, just not that huge to imagine people turning into animals and alien slugs trying to rule Earth. You, my friend, have potential from your biggest fan. You, my friend, have potential. It's been lucky enough to hear that many times in my own life. When I needed most to hear it, how do you say thank you for something like that? Humans have too many words, as Ivan says, and yet there don't seem to be enough. Still, I will try. Thank you. To my dad for his quiet courage and sly wit, and for tolerating a chaotic menagerie of pets, including an unremitting stream of baby gerbils. To my mom for showing me that it really isn't ever too late to be what you might have been when she went to art school after 4 kids were grown and permanently rechristened the ironing room her art room. To my sister Martha and Lisa, my brother Stu, and my dear friends Lisa and Susanna for their love, their patience, and their laughter. To John Schumacher and Colby Sharp and the Nerdy Book Club, and all the many librarians and teachers who've enriched my life and the lives of their students. To my agent Elena Michelin and my lawyer Steve Shepard, to making even contracts in triplicate entertaining. To Harbor Collins crew for their skill and support, especially Susanna Katz, Kat Jackson, and Catherine Teagan. To Amy Ryan, Sarah Hull, Renee Vero, Vera Cafiero, and Lucille Schneider for the amazing attention to every last detail. And to Laura Simmons, Jenny Sheridan, Kathy Faber, Susanna Daglian, Lauren Flower, and Patty Rosati and her whole wonderful team for all the TLC, to Ivan's brilliant illustrator, Patricia Castillo, for bringing Ivan and his friends to life with such humor and grace. To my friend and editor, Anna Hoppy, thank you for making Ivan the book it was meant to be. Anne loves words passionately. Anne loves books purely. Ivan would not be Ivan without her. There are so many wonderful writers in the world. I wish they could all have the chance to work with Anne Hope. She'd be very tired, granted, but they'd be better writers and better people because of it. To my amazing children, thank you for reminding me that really what really matters and keeping me humble. Julia, who's always ready with a comforting hug and the world's best sandwich, said I announced I was finally done with Ivan. When I announced I was finally done with Ivan, oh, so you mean we exist again? Jake, who has a passion for justice and an ear for truth, recently texted his sister when she asked him a question about her English homework. Sorry, Julia. Sorry, Julia. Mom's only written poetic stuff. That's useless in the real world. To my husband, Michael Grant, thank you for everything. 34 years ago, Michael knocked on my door to borrow a can opener. Even though he already had one, he told me back then that we could approach our lives as comedy or tragedy. I'm glad we chose comedy. I learned so much about writing from Michael and even more about life. We shared a long and crazy and wonderful history, and now we share this award, although apparently we still don't share a litter box duty. To Stephen Fried and the 2013 Newbery Committee, thank you for your dedication this past year, for heroically tolerating the bookshelves, the closets, and no doubt the bathtubs full of books to be read, the long meetings, the reading till the wee hours. That you love books wholeheartedly is quite evident. What may not be quite so evident is that most of you could probably use some new bookshelves. And finally, to all of you who've come here tonight to celebrate children's books, every time you find the necessary book for a child, a book about sadness overcome, unfairness battled, hearts mended, you perform the best kind of magic. It doesn't matter if it's about a gorilla or a nuclear physicist, a puppeteer, a motherless girl, or a clueless fish. If it's the right book, you've allowed a child to make a leap out of her own life, with all its limitations and fears, and yes, sometimes sadness, into another world, to imagine new possibilities for herself and for her world. Every time you book talk a new title, every time you wander the stacks trying to find the elusive, well-thumbed series paperback, every time you give the right book to just the right child, you're saying, you, my friend, have potential. That is a gift, that is a miracle, and that is what you do each of you every single day. For thank you that momentous, these truly are no words. Ivan's signature. Dear reader, every summer my friend Donna and I rely on student, teachers, librarians, and other authors from around the world to help pick a character from children's book to take on a literary road trip. During 2012 road trip, we traveled over 4,000 miles with a stuffed gorilla who wore a personalized T-shirt that author Catherine Applegate had specially made, and a copy of the one and only Ivan. If I asked stuffed animal Ivan to write about the most memorable afternoon during our journey, I know he would have wasted a few words describing when the real Ivan stood 5 feet from us and signed the copy of the one and only Ivan. My eyes fill with tears just thinking about the memorable afternoon. I can still see Ivan's longing caretaker Jody feeding him blueberries. I hear her say, Ivan, are you ready to sign your book? She gently guides his fingers into a can of green paint. He presses them down inside the book, leaving his distinct mark. After he signs the book, he does not let us out of his sight. It looks as though the deepest, wisest thoughts are running through his head. I sent Jody the following email message on January 28th, 2013, the day the one and only Ivan won the Newbery Medal. Dear Jody, I hope the one and only Ivan wins Newbery Medal. Is the last thing you said to me when I met you and Ivan. It happened. It really happened. It fills my heart with joy and to know that kids will always know about Ivan, the mighty silverback who touched your heart and mine. Thank you for taking care of Ivan so many years. Best, John. I'm so happy to be able to share Ivan's signature with you.